What's up, my ninjas? The other day, I was online after I dropped off my son in the morning. I was actually off, and I saw these beauties, and I'm like, wow, these actually look pretty good, and they look like they have way more articulation than what we're used to from DC collectibles. And I'm like, man, this is from Justice League War. This is going to be awesome. You guys know how I feel about the DCAU. So I'm marveling at these figures. I'm like, this Flash looks cool. I mean, their faces kind of remind me of Young Justice, but they still look good. This is like the best New 52 version of what's his name besides the other one. But this Wonder Woman, I was looking at Wonder Woman and I'm like, what? And then this comes to my door. And I'm like, holy shit, this was what ODC That's Me was talking about. Awesome. And it's the first time someone sent me something and it said Strident on it instead of, you know, my name. But anyway, it didn't take me long. I was looking at it. I laughed at that for a little bit. I quickly opened it up. And then I was like, what? I got the Flash, Wally West Flash. Now, you guys saw my video about the saga of Matty Collectors, and I think he saw it. I'm pretty sure he saw it, and he agreed with me, and apparently he took what I was saying to heart, because here's Wally West. I was like, I mean, you can almost tell I'm laughing right now. I was laughing when I saw it. I was like, holy shit. When you said you had a gift for me, I was expecting, like, you know, a loose figure that was just something, you know, that you were willing to part with. I wasn't expecting like a full-on mint in box, you know, Flash figure, Wally West Flash, you know. Thank you, man. Shit. This is one of the nicest thank yous I've ever received, especially when it comes to doing this whole internet show stuff. So, man, many thanks, man. I'm gonna jump in real quick and do a short review on him, because you've already seen this body, because this is like so many of the other DC Universe Classics figures, but it's also the body of the Barry Allen Flash. The only differences are really small. I mean, the head, of course, is one. The paint all over is another. He's not as metallic as the Barry Allen Flash is, but you see he has the right thunderbolts on his waist, around his wrists, and even on his ears and the sides of his head, or sides of his head, the sides of his head. They also sculpted a different head, completely different expression and everything, and I love it. I love the smirk, because before this, if you guys remember from all my other pictures, I had the JLA classified Flash. And I dug that figure. I dug it a lot. I love his little smirk. My only gripe was that because Ed McGuinness designed him, look at how diesel he was. He's huge. But now I'm going to pass the torch to the DCUC version. It's a little bit skinnier. And that's probably my only gripe with the figure, is that they should have used the Yellow Lantern Sinestro body, or the Dead Man body, or, you know, the skinnier body for the Flash. At least that's what I would have done. So he'd have that long, lanky body, and I would separate him from Barry Allen a little bit more. But even with that in mind, because you know me and scale, you can see the symbols. They did their little, you know, kind of the same symbol as the Barry Allen version, instead of the different one like what you just saw with the classified version. But besides the symbols and the body type, you know, it's DCUC, you know what to expect. So I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining at all. And it was free, not complaining. It's not every day you get a figure you were actually looking for, and you know, it happens to be a good figure. Everything works, all the joints work, but you know, it does take me back to, remember how I was pointing out some of those things about, you know, them re-releasing the same figures. But you know, it's the Flash, and it's a figure we should have had a long time ago. It would have been, like I said, nicer if he had a different body type. But like I said, once again, I'm not complaining about that, because, you know, you get used to it. This is how DCUC works. Thank you, ODC That's Me. This is an awesome figure. It's awesome for me because it's a figure I wanted since I first started collecting these guys. So thank you, and thank you. Yeah. This was so unexpected. It made my day, man. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what our community should be like, you know? We help people, people help each other, and just keep it going. Well, here is Flash, Wally West with the rest of the league, with the theme playing all thorough and whatnot. And as you can see, it looks perfect. Perfect, especially since my league is made up of a mixture of figures. It's pretty damn awesome. So I have to say I am impressed. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I can say. And on another note, ODC datsme was also my first customer for my custom capes. So he sent me this Batman Legacy modern Batman. Well, I guess he was the modern Batman when he came out because, you know, the new 52 thing hadn't happened yet. But anyway, this black and gray Batman. As you can see in the background, I already modded this figure. I did my own. So he's just going to end up looking like mine. It'll probably be a little cleaner than what I did because like I said, it was my first time checking this out, trying to do this and try that format. But yeah, I did it before. I'm proud of it. And it's cool that he sent me this particular one because, like I said, since that's my favorite of my Batman figures, next to the Arkham City Batman, black and gray bats. But since I got to play with this cape and, you know, make sure that it actually sits on his shoulders the right way and everything, yours is going to end up looking pretty slick. So, yes, I'm going to send an invoice to you, and yeah, expect your figure coming in about a week, okay? It shouldn't even take a week, so it'll be coming sometime next week, all right? So we're gonna move on to our next thing. So there's a game coming out. You guys might have heard of it. It's called Arkham Origins, Batman Arkham Origins. It's coming out for all the major platforms, including the DS and PS Vita. On the Vita and the DS, their version is called Blackgate. And as you can see from the picture, one of the assassins, or a character that's going to be in it, is the Bronze Tiger. Who's the Bronze Tiger, you say? The Bronze Tiger is a very badass assassin who is Batman's equal physically, and he's even managed to beat Batman in hand-to-hand combat. They've shown this in the comics, and they've shown it in Batman Brave and the Bold. Sometimes they tend to shy away from him, and I believe it's because he's a black character. And, you know, God forbid there's someone else that can beat him, and it's not an Asian person. You know what I'm saying? Not a ninja by traditional standards. But anyway, this guy trained in some stories at the same place with some of the same teachers that Batman trained under. And so if I was putting together a team of assassins to kill Batman, guess what? I would want this guy on here. But apparently, as I look around online and look around YouTube, I'm seeing that people are having issues with the fact that this character is in there. And I keep hearing, oh, there are better characters that they could put in there. Really? Because, you know, Croc, Joker, and Bane haven't already been in all the games so far. Like, I mean, when do we get to branch out? You go and they grab Deathstroke, who has all these powers. You know, he's enhanced as fuck. He's essentially an evil Captain America, you know, or even close to Deadpool. You know what I'm saying? Because Deadpool is a ripoff of him. But he's amped up, and if he can beat Batman, what's the big deal? He has powers. He's metahuman. It's obvious. But, you know, here's a guy who just trained as hard as Batman did, if not a little harder, and he can beat Batman. And people have issues with him being chosen over the same rogues that you've seen over and over and over. And the big issue, it's like it feels like it's one of those unsaid issues where everybody sees this black dude and they're just like, yeah, he's corny, forget him. You know what I'm saying? You got to give the other characters a chance. The DCU is huge. If you like comics and you read everything and not just Batman books, you would know that this guy's a badass. He's been in the Suicide Squad. He's beaten a lot of people that technically a normal human being, quote unquote, should not be able to beat. I think he deserves a shot. I hope that he's one of the 8 that's going to be in the actual, home system, the bigger system release. He recently showed up on Arrow, and I don't really like Arrow because I feel like they put Oliver Queen in a Batman Begins kind of situation, and I don't think that works for everybody. But it is nice to hear these names and watch a show where the action is actually okay, and you're seeing people that, if you're a fan of the DC universe like I am, or even just comics in general, even though my needle kind of swings a little bit more to the DC side, at least it used to. I don't really like the New 52 that much, but either way, I like comics, and I like a lot of the characters pre-New 52, and here's one of them. And it's nice to see them on television in another form, especially live action, because we don't really get that as much as we would like, considering that this is the age of superhero films, So, yeah, I want to see him in Arkham Origins. Like, that I can play on my PS3 or whatever I have at the time, PS4, whatever. They introduced that new class, which is the martial artist, and that's the class of thug that you'll fight. He can counter your counters, so you can have this cool back and forth like you see in the old Hong Kong films. Imagine a boss that's kind of like one of the main things that he does, or the main thing that he does is he's got tricky ass counters or tons of counters, and you have to be quick, you have to figure out the proper rhythm to deal with him. I think that'd be awesome. You know what I'm saying? And, it doesn't matter that behind the mask is a black guy. So people need to get over that shit. I did that video about racism in comics, and it just never ceases to amaze me how racist a lot of fans tend to be. And it's almost like a knee-jerk response where, like, anytime, I mentioned Invincible, that when Bulletproof took over for Invincible, everyone saw that picture and tons of people had racist shit to say. This character's been around for a very long time. He's been around for at least, 20 years. I'll be nice. At least 20 or 30 years. 20 some odd years. I'm not going to research the character. He's not one of my favorites. I just know of him from his appearances in comics, and I have his figure, and I've seen him on some shows, And I think he needs a redesign, and that's another reason why I want to see him in an Arkham game. If they do something, along these lines, that'd be awesome. King if they do something from Tekken, that would even be awesome, because that's immediately what comes to mind. I say more futuristic tech ninja type deal, or more traditional ninja with futuristic style. You know what I'm saying? When I say futuristic, modern style. A lot of times the problem with the designs of a lot of the characters is that the designers don't really think past like what they were influenced by in anime or in the comics of their favorite artist. And what they need to do is use their imagination and branch out a little bit more and, pull from different places. Don't just pull from, the same sources and the same places that you've pulled from in the past. I mean, that's what I try to do. I mean, I'm inspired by, a lot of people, and there's art everywhere. So every day I see something that's like, holy shit, how did someone come up with this? And instead of just copying what they do, I take that inspiration that I feel and I pour it into my designs. You know what I'm saying? And, sometimes you get varying results. Most times I like the results I get, and I think more character designers that are in the field need to do that. And you see it with Rocksteady Games really had that that hold on form following the function, and pouring that into the design so that we can tell that this works for this. Batman's got huge gauntlet covers over his wrists, or forearms, so that he can protect himself from possibly bullet fire or swords or knives, you know what I mean? And it takes the slack for the lack of armor around his abdomen. His chest has a lot of armor, though, because the symbol is a target and people shoot at it. You know what I'm saying? There was logic to it, you know? It would have been cooler if he had the yellow and black symbol, but, you know, less color is better for hiding in the shadows. That works. They dulled all the blues down. They're almost black. I mean, they put every little detail that you saw in the comics. It's in there. I mean, Arkham Asylum, he had a blue and gray suit. Arkham City, his costume was mostly black and gray. If we do see him, let's hope that, like I said, they know their shit, and that's what I want to see with this guy. You know, because I have my reservations about Arkham Origins as it is. Let's hope from them trying to tell us that this is an origin story, which means it takes place in the past, and this Batman's supposed to be younger, yet all his gear and his suit looks way more advanced in comparison to what we saw in the previous Arkham games. Also, the fact that characters that he only saw at one point, you know, that wasn't in the beginning of his career, they're in this game, like Bane. Like, Bane was supposed to be like a wild card that came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden, these guys, because they love him and he's popular, he just keeps showing up in everything. So I'm hoping that the game isn't as all over the place and, you know, just pure fan service as it seems, because I'm not about just fan service. I want the plot, the story, all the elements that go together to work together for the better of the game. So anyway, that's enough about Arkham Origins and shit. We're gonna move on to something else. I've been meaning to do this, and I don't know why I didn't do it beforehand, but I am giving you a review of the Flashpoint Paradox. This time you guys are getting a lot of information from me. This movie is fucking amazing. I've actually watched it about 10 times or more since it came out. And man, for you Aquaman fans, finally he's shown in the light that he deserves. Similar to how he was in Justice League, Unlimited and regular Justice League, except he's even worse. He's so powerful and so just angry that it's amazing. It's amazing. He's a beast. That's all I can say. I mean, at one point you have Flash, Batman, and Cyborg trying to take him down, and they don't succeed. He's a beast. He is a beast. I can't stress it enough. Actually, Atlantis in general, Atlantis and Themyscira get a serious, like, you know, warlike makeover in this, because they are at the center of the war. You know, the reason why this world is in the kind of peril it's in. Aqualad shows up, Calder, and man, Calderon was doing his thing in this, and he's only in there briefly, but man, he actually has one of the best scenes, him and Slade. But I gotta say, what took the cake was this, Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor. Woohoo! Shit! Anyway, and that's early in the story, so you'll see exactly why this movie is so great. But I'm gonna give you a brief synopsis, or a little synopsis. You know, my brief is long for other people, so, you know, be prepared. You already know what to expect if you've been with me thus far. You know what I'm saying? Essentially what you have here is a animated adaptation of the series. I think it was like 51-part series by Jeff Johns and Andy Kubert, as well as a couple other artists, because, you know, each individual character, or a couple of the main characters, had their own little, you know, mini-series within the main story. But anyway, it is an adaptation of the Flashpoint series by DC Comics. It's a Flash-centric story, and not my boy Wally West, but Barry Allen. And essentially what we have here is a story in which the ramifications of a man with the kind of power that the Flash has, you know, the Flash himself, having the power to move at the speed of, what, sound, speed of light, break the time barrier. What if he was to go through time and change things? You know what I'm saying? Change one happening. You know, what would happen as a result? And essentially, that's what this story explores. Barry Allen kind of is depressed. He's thinking back to the death of his mother at the hands of a burglar, and he's thinking, what if I could have changed it? What if I could have been there to stop the burglar? What would have happened? You know, how life would be a little bit better for me. You know, I wouldn't be depressed, and my mom would still be here. So he does it. And the ramifications are insane. You see a DC universe in which more than half of the heroes you know don't exist. Cyborg has taken the place of Superman. He is the main, like, hero, America's hero, you know what I mean? Batman uses guns, and this Batman is not Bruce Wayne. This Batman is Thomas Wayne, and the whole situation went down differently. Bruce got shot. The mom and dad survived. Mom goes crazy, and that's another thing that when you see it, you're gonna be like, holy shit, I'm not even gonna go into that. Mom goes crazy, dad becomes Batman. He opens a bunch of casinos in Gotham so that he can lure criminals to him and then get his information that way, kill who he needs to kill, and this Batman doesn't give a shit. He is just so merciless, it's crazy. I love it. I love it. I'm not even gonna go too much in detail with that, but I just love this change, you know what I mean? I even dig his costume a little bit. It's kind of on the cheesy side because he's not as tactical as Bruce is, but he is kind of a gifted strategist, and you know, the other heroes give him props for that. There is no Flash in this universe, so when the Flash comes to this world, he doesn't have his powers. Essentially, this world was flipped upside down because of a war between Themyscira and Atlantis. There was some type of peace treaty. You know, Orin or Arthur, whichever one you want to call him, the king of Atlantis, Aquaman, shakes hands with Wonder Woman. They form a truce, and to like seal the deal, the two of them humped behind Mera's back. I mean, they did it up old school Hercules style, and Aquaman laid some pipe, and he got in trouble because, well, it caused trouble because this guy doesn't get in trouble. He caused trouble for Mera because Mera saw it. Mera decides to come back when he's not there and attack Diana. And as you know, Wonder Woman is a beast. And in this world, she's complete medieval. She doesn't give a shit. If you cross her, you are dead. So she kills Mera. She beheads Mera. I'm going to repeat that. She cuts off Mera's head. And they show it to you straight out. This is easily the most violent DC animated film yet. And I love it. I love it because it finally brought it up to the adult standard that it needs to be at, that kind of sets these movies apart from everything else. Essentially, Alan comes to this world and realizes what's been wrong. You know, what's happening. Well, he realizes that things are wrong, and he tries to find heroes to help him set things right. They figure if they stop Atlantis and Themyscira from destroying everything, because essentially in between this battle, every land that they cross, every land that they fight on, they destroy it. You know, London fell prey to the Amazons, other parts of Europe as well. You know, and you see it. It's like Paris. Everything is the landscape is just fucked up. So they're trying to stop this. You know, you see cameos from a lot of characters. Grifter, the Demon. It's pretty nice that they were able to pull together all these characters. Lois Lane. Superman hasn't even really become Superman yet because he was found by the government. So he was locked away underground. It's awesome to see how they flip things around. Aquaman has every Atlantean that you've seen ever. They're all on his side. Gar, freaking Tula, freaking, like I said, Calderon, Ocean Master, Black Manta, they're all on the same side. Opposing, you know, one of the opposing groups is Deathstroke has a group of people on his ship called the Ravager. Which, if you're a fan of DC, you would know who this is, why it's relevant. Ravager is the name of his daughter when she assumes her, you know, super villain / anti-hero mantle. They have one of the best scenes in the film because you actually see Deathstroke try to take on... Actually, Deathstroke is teamed up with Lex Luthor and a number of other characters that serve as like a team of pirates almost, and they're, you know, going around working together trying to stop this stuff, and they fail. But you get to see, before Deathstroke goes down, you get to see him go off, as only Slade would, with his gun, with 2 swords, and you're seeing the Atlanteans just layeth the smacketh down on that ass, and it's pretty nice to see. The animation in this was handled by Studio 4C. I'm pretty sure the keyframes were set up by Warner Brothers. You see, I'm getting a little technical because this is my one of my fields of expertise. But the keyframes, I'm pretty sure, were done by, or the storyboarding and everything was done by Warner Brothers US. But the animation was handled by Studio 4C. You get some smooth animation, some awesome effects. You get the smoothest slow-mo I've ever seen in animation, with a combination of CG models, because Flash is a CG model in this scene, and hand-drawn animation as well as other effects. And it's just amazing to see. It's a wonder that these films don't come out in the theaters. Something like this would work, and it could be detrimental for DC if it did, because as violent as it is, parents would be surprised when they take their kids to see this film, and it's got beheadings and, you know, dismemberment and, you know, freaking bullets through the head, and you're seeing through the hole. The camera angle is set up dead center through the hole so you could see who shot that person. You know, that kind of shit, most parents would be kind of, you know, they would be against having their kids sit down and watch this, because you got to admit, when it comes to the original characters, a lot of kids watch this stuff. The problem is more adults watch it, and America is having a crisis with understanding that comics and even cartoons in general, they're just not all for kids. I mean, yes, they're colorful, and, you know, some of the characters could be juvenile and whatnot, but it's not for kids. Now, the fight scenes in this are amazing. From the first fight scene, which is between Yo-Yo, which is a Harley Quinn analog, she fights the Batman of the Flashpoint universe, to the very end crazy battle that goes on, the insane last like half hour of the film. Everything is awesome. My one criticism, I have one big criticism, right? Wally West is a more interesting character than Barry Allen. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to argue and be like, "Wah, I like Barry Allen better." Don't get me wrong, he has his place. But when you play Kid Flash, because Wally West was a Kid Flash, he was Kid Flash when Barry Allen was the Flash, the first time around. When you have a character that's serious and by the book the way Barry Allen is, when you have Wally West next to him as his sidekick, you get that interplay. You know, you got your straight man and you got your straight up comedy dude. You know what I'm saying? Your straight up comic relief. When you have Barry Allen by himself and he's next to people like Batman and fucking Cyborg and freaking, you know, other straight men essentially. And when I'm saying straight men, I'm not saying like the opposite of gay. I'm saying guys that are very straightforward and tough, and they're not the ones cracking the jokes. You have a boring dynamic. And, you know, I understand that Jeff Johns is a fan of the Silver Age, but it's extremely boring to watch Barry Allen hang out and do stuff and be the focus, and the man's emotional range is like zero. You know what I'm saying? Like, he goes from morose to crying, and that's it. You know what I mean? You see him get his ass whooped, you see him try to do things and fail, and you see him frustrated, you see him depressed, and you see him cry a little, and that's it. You see him smile towards the end of the film in some parts, but, you know, he's very, very just flat as a character, and it's boring. I'm not gonna lie, it's extremely boring. Justin Chambers, I think his name was the actor, the voice actor that supplied the voice for Barry Allen, and this is the first time that we got, well, second time, but if you count Brave and the Bold, but it's the first time that in one of the big films you got a Barry Allen that was completely separate from Michael Rosenbaum, who was Wally West originally, because in Justice League Doom, which was the first time you got the original cast back together, they switched out the Green Lantern. So you had Nathan Fillion instead of having Phil Lamar, because you didn't have Jon Stewart. Instead, you had Hal Jordan. And then you had Michael Rosenbaum still playing the Flash, but this time it was Wally West. I mean, it was, Barry Allen with Wally West's voice, just more serious and less comedic. And it didn't work for me. And if you check out my review, you can see more about that. But the point of the matter is that the movie would work better if Wally West was the main character. The problem is their origins are different. So I would have liked if they were able to find a way to give Barry Allen more personality. Because if you grew up watching TV in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, you remember the Flash television show with John Wesley Shipp as Barry Allen. And the guy had personality. He made the show interesting because he was a little quirky. He wasn't comedic the way that Wally West is, but he was interesting because he was a quirky personality. We didn't have that in this film, so you kind of just, you're waiting for other people to show up so you can see what happens, and you're waiting for an action scene because, the DC heroes shut up and they get to work when there's shit to be done. So the action redeems a lot of what was lacking in the character relationship sense. You know what I'm saying? So overall, though, this movie is amazing. I mean, when you see the way that the DC universe was flipped on its head, and you see the different interactions between characters that are allies in the regular DC universe, and you see how vicious the Amazons are to the Atlanteans, and how desperate the Atlanteans are to win this war, and the things they're using to do so, you're gonna be like, holy shit. I mean, it's an amazing piece of work, for real. The art style is awesome too, because this is the most anime we've ever had in a DC AU film. And I loved it. The music was even good. You know me, sometimes the music takes me out of these things, but this was definitely the total package with that one gripe in mind. I'm hoping that the next feature, which if you watch, I think it's like midway through the credits, you get a boom tube with parademons flying out towards the screen, actually. It's a little preview to let you know that the next one is Justice League War. That's the next video we're going to get, the next movie. And it's pretty much a retelling of the New 52 Justice League first couple issues as a movie. And I'm looking forward to it. I've seen designs. I already showed you some of the toys. I'm surprised they didn't have Batman in that group of toys, but you've already seen how they look. You know what the animation is going to be like. You know what the DCAU is all about. They're going to trim the fat out of that story because there's a lot of shit that happens that you're kind of like, you don't really need to do all that. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this shapes up because, like I said, I've been a long-time fan. I won't even say fan. I'm a lover of the DC animated universe with a few small exceptions, and it just keeps getting better. I'm glad they didn't fall off like they said years ago because they said sales were pretty low. I'm glad that The Dark Knight Returns 1 and 2 were able to pull them out of the shitter and put them back on the map and allow us to get more of these things. And I hope they continue to do more. I hope they go back and they do like Nightfall, but I also hope they do stuff like the Superman stories that were cool, like Panic in the Sky or Our Worlds at War, or just any of the stories that involve other characters besides Batman that would give us a chance to see evolution of some characters. I know there's an Aquaman movie coming. I know there's another Wonder Woman movie supposedly that's coming. And I'd love to see like a Blue Beetle story, or a Justice League International animated film with a huge comedic roster of voice talent. It just would be awesome for them to do that kind of stuff as opposed to only focusing on big money Bats himself. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. And on to other business. So I just want to say once again, thank you to ODC That's Me. I really enjoy our back and forths with these videos, man. We need to do one of those collab videos, man. Let me know a good time. You know what I mean? I know this was long, but shit, we could go on and on forever about this stuff. So you, me, Rob, and Chapman Films, and Automatica, we all need to get together and do one of those. Get Agent O in there, and hopefully Clarion Prime, and talk about shit. I hope that I gave you some insight onto some stuff that you would like. You see how I snuck in the Flashpoint Paradox review in a review in which I received the Flash? That's another reason why this took so long, is because I started to do the Flashpoint review on its own, and then I figured, hey, guess what? Now that I just got Wally West, and I wish he was the main character, or, I would have been more interested if he was in it, I snuck him into this. So, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. It's always awesome to get this stuff out and just chat and put shit out there with you guys. And, I'm looking forward to, your comments and, your perspectives. Guys, start sending me your Batman toys and your Superman toys, you know what I mean? And let me get those capes looking slick for you. I need you guys to stay tuned, because I'm going to start pretty soon, actually in the next couple days, I'm going to have up a video about more supporting War of the Gods, because I'm going to have a Kickstarter. And I'm going to really need help on that one, because there's a lot going on here, and I want to really get this out there to as many of my ninjas as I possibly can. So stay tuned for that. So anyway, as usual, I'm STRYDENT. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. You guys have been great, and I will catch you on the next video. Peace outside.